through to everyone out there. While we're waiting for confirmation of that, I just want to remind everyone to go to hankstrange.com, sign up for our email list. That's the best way to support us. We've got all kinds of good different links on there. You can find deals and all that kind of stuff that Lola's sharing if you want to get merch from, let's say, Ballistic Ink, where we have a store, or if you want the patches. The Hank Strange, we're feeding through. There you go. Someone, let's see, who's got... Okay, I thought I just heard myself for a second. Okay, so let's get into it here. I'm gonna run the open.
Welcome back to the Hank Strange Situation.
All right, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel here. Thumbs up, ring the bell so you can be notified every time we go live. Okay, we've got a new guest, Rhonda Ezell. Rhonda, we do jazz hands here on the show. There you go.
Okay,
YouTube, just jazz hands right there. John Crump, we make him do it every time. We are live. I hope you guys have your big girl panties on. We are here. We are live. And we're going to do this. This is episode 587 of the Who Moved My Freedom podcast. Our special guest is Rhonda Ezell of Chicago Guns Matter.
Yay.
There you go. And then our extra... Huh? What's that, John?
And Ezell versus the city of Chicago, which is a landmark case in 2A rights.
Right, absolutely. We're going to get into all of that. Of course, you heard him there. There he goes, John Crump of GOA. Right, there you go. And what else? Let's see. GOA, AmmoLand. I don't know how many different things he has going on today. He's got 7 different jobs because he believes he's partly Jamaican. He's partly Jamaican, John Crump. People don't know this about you, John, right?
No, I'm 1% from...
You're 1%?
Yeah. I did a DNA test, and 1% of my DNA is...
From Senegal. Okay. All right. Cool. We'll get into that. Rhonda, welcome to the show. Obviously, this is the first time that you've been here on the show. Have we met before?
Absolutely, Hank. Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Yes.
We did. We met back in 2016.
Really? Okay.
And absolutely.
Okay.
We were at the NRA convention in Louisville. And I was walking around and I was looking, and there weren't too many black people there.
Oh, we did a group photo. Yeah.
And remember, I ran into you guys, and I was like, you know what? I have not seen as many of us here. Mm-hmm. And I said, this has to change. And I said, do you mind if I take a photo with you all?
Right.
And you guys were like, sure. I didn't have a clue to who you were. I just wanted a photo with some people that I saw that looked like me, that was at the gun show. And I was, excited. Right. And so we took the photo, and then I was like, well, maybe I may post it later. I was just getting into social media, but I never posted. And so it took for years down the line for it to click, like, oh, that's who that was.
Oh.
But that was great.
Yeah, she told me the story on my podcast.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
I'm like, you want to go on that show? I can get you on there.
Awesome. Well, we're glad that happened. And yes, of course, you were on John's podcast. I was looking at some of that earlier. Good show from you guys. Let me just get into this real quick. Excuse me. The Range gave us $10 here. He says, "You guys, I live in Illinois. You have no idea how big of a deal Rhonda Ezell is in this state. She's a big-time leader in the Pro 2A community. I've never met her, but she's a legend here. Legendary. You're on legendary status. Can I call you Rhonda?"
Absolutely.
Okay, awesome. Just making sure. I don't want to get in trouble.
Make me call you Mrs. L.
Mrs. L? Yeah, either one. Whatever you like.
Mrs. L is for the younger group.
Oh, okay.
If you're not over 45, we may have to talk about that.
Yeah. Missy Zell sounds like a dominatrix type of thing also, but not in a bad way. Not in a bad way. All right, cool. What were you saying, John? What?
I'm 44, so I'm going to have to call her Mrs. L for the rest of the show.
Oh, because you're 44? Oh, boy. You guys already had the age conversation. I'm not even getting into the middle of that.
No, John, you're good. You're good, John.
Okay.
Yeah, John's always trying to be older than someone because he's got a big baby face. So.
Well, yeah, it kind of got smacked down the other day on the age thing, but it was a good smackdown thingy, so it's fine.
Right.
Thanks.
So So I think, as John has said, as the range said here, you've got this legendary status. But let's say there's some folks out there who don't know who you are, Rhonda. Can you explain like who you are, what your background is, how you came to be here in the gun community, and obviously known by so many people in the gun community as someone who stood up for the Second Amendment? If you could just break that down for us here.
Absolutely, Hank. I'm Rhonda Ezell. I was the lead plaintiff in Ezell versus the City of Chicago. Took on the City of Chicago for the right to build gun ranges. I am also the president and co-founder of Chicago Guns Matter. And what we wanted to do is, we were the plaintiffs that took on the political powers to be to restore gun rights in the City of Chicago. We were the last state in the United States of America to get concealed carry. So we know that the City of Chicago is very corrupt. We were fighting the machine, and then we won. It took for Otis McDonald, along with David and Colleen Lawson, to take on the City of Chicago for the right to own a gun in the home. Mm-hmm. They had a total ban on firearm ownership. You can't have a gun, and that had been in place for over 3 decades. So, coming upon that, I saw that on the news. I said, okay, I'm going to get involved. I'm going to exercise my right, because I was dealing with a situation where people had tried to break into my home. And so, I wasn't going for that. And mm-hmm. so I, started to comply and traveled outside of the city to do so. City said, hey, you want to get a Chicago firearm permit at the time? That's what it was when Mr. McDonald won his case. They said, you have to have a class and you have to have some range training. But at the same time, they prohibited gun ranges. That's where I found myself traveling outside of the city to comply with the new ordinance. Then I came back and I broke it down to my state organization, which is the Illinois State Rifle Association, which I'm a lifetime member of. And I said, look, guys, these are the things that I had to go through. And it was very significant because I had just lost my health. I was dealing with getting off life support, learning how to walk again. And it was tough for me to travel to even get to that destination. Mm-hmm. And so when I got back, I said, look, this is what happened. So they checked it out. They checked out the information and they said, look, your rights have been violated. Ezell versus Chicago was born.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Also, so if we could just go back here for a second, because I believe you were talking about Otis McDonald. Can we just break down real quick who Otis McDonald is for the folks out there?
Absolutely.
Like, including me that doesn't know I don't feel like I know the full story of Otis McDonald either. Go ahead.
Otis McDonald is a hero. He's an American hero. He's a father. He's a veteran. He took on the City of Chicago because he was having some issues in his neighborhood with the gangbangers. Mm-hmm. In Chicago, these guys are rough. They want to be on your property. They want to, do all the things that standing in front of your place or, aggravating people. And Mr. McDonald, he wasn't going for that. So mm-hmm. he decided to sue the City of Chicago for the right to own a gun. He's worked in this city. He's paid taxes in this city. He's fought for this country. He's a great father. He's a great husband. He's a great, he's a great man. And to all of us, he's an American hero. Mm-hmm. And so once he won that right, and he struck that right down, it was a Supreme Court victory. This case was monumental.
So at that time in Chicago, was it like within the city of Chicago, you couldn't have a firearm within the home? What was going on there?
You couldn't have a firearm, period.
You couldn't have a firearm,
period.
Okay.
Because back in the mid 80s, mm-hmm. at one point in time, they had something in place where you could own a gun. But mm-hmm. when it expired, they never put another registry in place for people to renew their licenses. And this was done by one of the most corrupt aldermen in city council, who's mm-hmm. now being indicted. You know what mm-hmm. I'm saying? So mm-hmm. this is what we're dealing with. So we took on, we had Mike Madigan, who's been running this state with an iron fist for over mm-hmm. 50 years, the political machine with the dailies, Rahm Emanuel, etc. So
lots of corruption in Chicago.
Absolutely, and mm-hmm. that's what people don't understand. When we say we were the last state to get concealed carry, and we went from a total ban on firearm ownership to shall issue concealed carry, mm-hmm. I think I beg to differ about Chicago having the most strictest gun rules, the mm-hmm. gun laws. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Because we came a long way.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much to unpack here, John. I don't know if there was a point that you wanted to. Was there something you wanted to?
I just wanted to say, mm-hmm. McDonald is a legend in 2A history.
Yeah. Now,
Absolutely.
unfortunately, he passed, right? I think he passed in
Absolutely.
2014.
Mr. McDonald passed away.
Mm-hmm.
He was not able to get his concealed carry license.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the reasons that I stand strong when I tell people stop talking negative about the city of Chicago, especially if you live here. If you are a gun owner and you have a right to have a gun in the home, or you are exercising your right to carry conceal, Mr. McDonald is a trailblazer. If it wasn't for him putting his life on the line and the life of his family and loved ones to go up against the political powers to be, none of us would have a firearm in our possession at this time, because he started it off.
You're right. Yeah.
And I hate to hear people continuously badger the city of Chicago, and we're not even in the top 10 for crime in the nation, So
Oh, okay. All right.
They have to do their homework.
All right. So there's some stuff we have to get into with Chicago. I mean, I knock Chicago all the time. So, I mean, if you could definitely spank me. But I know I do it. I think Chicago's like an easy target for
everybody does it.
Yeah.
It's an easy target because politically they're always bickering back and forth with someone.
Right.
So it makes us the target.
Yeah, but there's so much corruption. There's all these different things going on in Chicago. We just have
Absolutely.
Chicago is just one of those places. It's like how Florida has Florida Man. We try to own it. It's not necessarily a good thing, but we try to own it. I think there are things going on in Chicago. Now, one of the things is that I hear from time to time there's people who say, how come there's not more black people out there standing up for the Second Amendment in America? And I think with Otis McDonald and then yourself, prime examples of black people in America who are fighting for the Second Amendment, right?
Absolutely. That was the main reason we created Chicago Guns Matter. Because in the 2A community, we are household names. You would hear Ezell versus Chicago or McDonald versus Chicago through litigation. And that's how it was processed. I wanted to make sure that we put faces to the cases so that we could humanize the cases. We were everyday working mom and dads, grandparents that went to work every day, came home, and decided we wanted to stand up and fight for our rights. Right. So when I hear that, the black community is not involved and why black people don't exercise that, we are. We just need to be put out in the forefront more. Oh, yes,
so there's a lot of people out there that it's not convenient, I think, to have your faces out there, right?
No. Yeah. Well, they don't want to put it. Absolutely. Let me say yes. Because in Chicago, once again, you're dealing with the corruption. So to literally say, I'm a gun owner, people still afraid that they may end up having a disagreement with law enforcement. You have to remember, the city of Chicago has never had a great communication relationship with law enforcement. And this goes back from the days of Al Capone. So when you don't have this, but it was instilled by Mary Emanuel, who told those police officers he didn't care who had a concealed carry license, treat them all the same, which was as criminals. We had a superintendent before who stated that once we won those lawsuits, that he instructed his police department to shoot concealed carry holders, and that came from Gary McCarthy. And when he showed his face to try to run for mayor, I was out just flabbergasted. Like, what?
Yeah. This is one of the first of all, I mean, Chicago is one of the oldest cities in America. I don't know where the ranking stands on, like, what's the oldest city, John? Do you know? What's the
oldest city
in America? Yeah, I know Chicago's not the oldest, but it's pretty old city. There's a lot of history going on there in Chicago, and we hear about it a lot in the news. And I think this is why it has like a little bit of a bad reputation. We hear every weekend there's all these deaths. We hear all this stuff, and I think this is from my point of view, right? And it would be great if you can enlighten us on this. You still live in Chicago, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, you like born and bred in Chicago, also, I think.
Absolutely.
Okay, so like one of the things that people hear out there is like this place is a war zone. There's lots of gangs out there. It's very tough for people to get that under control. I think you even mentioned that when you were talking about Otis McDonald, that there were these gangs. He wanted to be able to defend himself, And we see this a lot. There's lots of hardworking, good people in America in lots of places. Lots of times it's the inner city that do not have the ability to fight back or push back against crime that's there. And this is, to me, the major thing reason why we have the Second Amendment, for people to be able to provide their own security for themselves and their family members, right?
For sure. What's going on here is we see a lot of gang violence. And when it comes down to regular everyday people, if for some reason these people are into your space, then they're probably 9 times out of 10 trying to rob you for something that they see you have or something that they want. But when it comes to the violence itself, it's not gun violence. That's just a terminology made up by the anti-gunners. This is gang related. Someone will kill an individual, and then of course they're going to go back and to break it down to the people that don't understand, they want to get their lick back. Now that may sound horrible to say it, but how else can I break it down to the American people to understand? When a gang member kills someone, they're going to retaliate. Then there's going to be another retaliation, and it's going to carry on. But the reason you see them saying about gun ownership is because when it's portrayed on the news through the media, it's promoted as gun violence, which means typically that's to mentally manipulate the general public to think and hone in on the tool instead of the individual responsible for the crime.
Amen. Amen. 100%.
So, I mean, so if every day you see 20 shot, 4 fatal, or 30 shot, 6 fatal, so on and so forth, and they keep saying gun control, gun control, gun control, well, these are the same racist gun control measures that's been in place since we were freed of slavery. But yet, we doing all this margin for racial equality, and no one has brought it up yet to end these racist gun control measures. But here we are.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, John, was there something? I know I saw you looking up stuff. What did you want to say?
No, well, somebody was texting me. No, I was going to answer a question that you asked me that you, instead of letting me answer, you just jumped away, but that's okay.
Yeah, this is how we do it here, John. This is how we do it here. You got to jump in, man. You got to jump
in.
Yeah.
I'm not used
you
to
can't be polite.
Jumping in. I'm real polite. I have to wait.
Trust me, I have seen John all fired up and jumping in. Okay.
Yeah.
Jump in, John.
Rhonda said no one's speaking up against racist gun control, and I want to correct her. I think she's speaking up against racist gun control, and there's other people out there like Maj Toure speaking up against gun control, and I think these people need to have their voices elevated, especially Rhonda's, to a national stage and get in front of people.
Well, let me jump in and interject right quick, because I'm not talking about me, Maj, Antonia, us that's in the 2A community. I'm talking about what we're being fed through the media through these marches and protests that's telling us that Black Lives Matter. Who is running those marches and those protests? Those are the people I'm talking about. I'm not talking about our inner circle.
Right.
We do it all the time, and we do it together.
Yeah,
it's the same common cause. When I say they're not fighting for racial gun control measures to be taken off the book, I'm talking about the political powers to be that has held office for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, that are locking arms with these people, marching with them, lying in their faces just a little bit longer to stay in office. Those are the people that I'm talking about. I'm not talking about Maj, and I'm not talking about any other individual within the 2A community, because that's our job.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I understand that. And I think, obviously, you know what, John? I mean, I think you're both right here. And I think the overall thing, it's like if a tree falls in the forest and no one's there to hear it, does it make a sound? The person to be there to hear it or amplify this or project this message would be the media in general, which refuses to recognize people like Rhonda or Maj or Kevin Dixie or all the guys who are out there fighting this stuff all the time.
Absolutely.
Well, what I'm trying to say is we need to find a way to get you guys in front of the media.
They don't want to talk to us, though. They ignore us purposely.
John did not tell you that? Did not tell you they don't want to talk to us?
Yeah, I'm not saying that's the answers. I'm just saying we got to figure out a way to
No,
do
you're
it.
right. You're 100% right.
What I would like to do is I would like for some of these gun manufacturers or ammunition manufacturers and makers of whatever accessory that's 2A. I know you have professional shooters that do this. I get that. I'm saying if we're going to promote Black firearm ownership on another level where we could reach people, because you have to reach them here. You can write a long story and post it. They're not going to read it. They may scam it. You know what I'm saying?
Maybe they'll look at the headline. Maybe
put a board like right. If you're gonna get their attention, put up a billboard. Do some marketing, promoting. Put something on the bus. Put something on the newsstand. Make it normal. We know we're doing it, but we're not being seen and not being heard to the point where we can grasp the general public in a way where they're driving down the expressway or a highway and they go, "Whoa, was that a black family?" Like, or at a bus station and they see a black gun owner.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm just saying, let's find a way to network. Let's find a way to put ourselves out there other than social media, because that is what's going to ring the bell.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it resonates better than words.
Yeah,
You're giving me ideas.
What's
some visual out there?
What's that, John?
She's giving me ideas.
Oh, yes. She's fired up. It's me. I'm pretty sure it's me. No, I'm just teasing. Listen, you know what's funny? So Franklin Armory is sponsoring the show. Shout out to them. I was actually talking to Brandon over at Franklin Armory, and we had the same exact discussion.
Really?
Yeah, because I said to him that, you know, one of the things, we're kind of living in a vacuum of after NRA, right? The NRA has kind of like fallen apart. And when the NRA was, before all of this stuff happened with the NRA and lots of us separated, were mad at it, and, you know, and all these things came out and whatever, you know, the NRA was basically a place where all these companies in the gun world, all these industries, they gave their money to the NRA, and then they felt like, okay, we did what we had to do. They gave them the money, okay, and then they decided who were going to be the voices. Mostly, you know, this is my opinion, they wanted to make sure they had some kind of control or ownership over those voices, and, you know, this is how things ran. Now we're kind of living in the absence of that. Before, you would see folks like, you know, Colio Noir was up there. There were other people. But the NRA kind of had a machinery. That's the side of it, I think, that we really needed, that machinery side of it, to help get voices out there. In the absence of that now, we have lots of voices and lots of people like Rhonda and all the people that we can mention on all aspects of this. But we don't have any machinery to help get them out in front of people. And this is one of the reasons why that's missing. And I wish the industry would figure out a way to still make that machinery work. Go ahead, John.
Well, GOA has funded Maj's tour to the inner cities, to go to the inner cities and actually talk to the residents of the inner city about their 2A rights and about the history of gun control and everything else. So we sent them around to a bunch of different cities, and I think we need more voices to do that as well. And I don't think that we need the absolute control that like the NRA.
What I'm talking about is not about control of one said organization. What I'm saying is clearly we have to move in a different direction. And the direction I'm talking about is billboards, plastering all across this country with faces that's different. We can't continue to worry about what happened with the NRA, what did they do with the money. It's over with. The money is spent, it's gone. Or whatever
we need to do this.
I don't know.
We need to do this differently going forward.
We have to find a way to market and promote Black firearm ownership other than going out and talking to classes of people. I'm talking about reaching these people when they're driving by. We see McDonald's advertisement. We see, even when you open your email, right? When you open your email and you get it from a manufacturer of some type of gun thing, you see a guy wearing a coat or a jacket or some binoculars or some part of a rifle or whatever the case may be. That's advertisement, marketing and promoting. That has to be more of us involved. And not saying that they don't have some. Let's just find a way to, you know, boost that up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you capture the people here. Everybody is not going to come out. The ones that come out to the classes and course, that is great.
Mm-hmm.
How long do you think you could do that? I'm saying you got to get in the front of the people another way. And I'm just talking billboards and advertisement and marketing where it could be seen. And then you grasp them. Then you start getting them to think and leaving it on their minds. If they come from work and they're sitting in and they're driving and they look and they see an advertisement and they're going to think about that later. Boom, I saw a black gun owner, some person with a gun, and they were black.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm talking about on a different level. You have to tap into the mental.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have some ideas. I wanna get some of your ideas and tell you some of my ideas, and then we can discuss it and see what we can do.
Okay. Are you gonna do that now? Are you gonna kick those ideas out right now?
Oh no, no.
Hey,
yeah.
You got to remember, Hank, these are my ideas. Got my eye on you, John. I really think that it's time. It's time to do something different because we've stomped the grounds before. The things that we see Maj do, me, myself, Mr. Otis McDonald,
mm-hmm.
David and Colleen Lawson,
mm-hmm.
back in 2010,
mm-hmm.
a whole decade ago, we were out on the L stations, bus stations, train lines,
mm-hmm.
passing out literature. Those people laughed us in our face.
Mm-hmm.
They laughed at us and they balled our paperwork up and they threw it on the ground. Well, we couldn't leave it there because we printed it and it was ours.
Mm-hmm.
And we were marketing and promoting firearm ownership in the black community.
Mm-hmm.
Although we were laughed, out the station, but we stayed there. We did our job. We're grown-ups
mm-hmm.
and we're trying to educate these people. And
mm-hmm.
now, a decade later, we have concealed carry. So all the while where we were being told, oh, you guys are crazy, it'll never happen, you will never carry a gun in Chicago, we did our footwork.
Mm-hmm.
We started grassroots around the city of Chicago, but once again, black gun ownership, they're afraid to come out and get involved. They're scared they're going to be reported,
mm-hmm.
or they may be known as, oh, you were part of that gun group, so you must have a gun, and they think the police is going to come in
mm-hmm.
and do something. Once again, it goes back to corruption. So
I think
not too many people are strong enough and brave enough to step out in the forefront like a Otis McDonald or Rhonda Ezell.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I thank you for doing that. I mean, that was like you said, the grassroots of doing it. And I think today, if we look around the world, or if you look around America, we've got lots of people of color, from that matter, of all races that never spoke up about guns before. I think overriding the stereotype that it's just something for some old, white guys somewhere. The thing is now we need to, like you said, we need to figure out how to kick it up to another level. And it's probably it's going to take all of us to get on board, right? Because they're not going to invite us. There a lot of places aren't going to invite us to that thing. I see people talking about how Daniel Defense tried to run an ad on the Super Bowl and that was turned down. There's a lot of things out there now. I mean, even what we're doing here, YouTube has restrictions, and Facebook and this place and that place has restrictions for sure. And I think that, this is what I was thinking about when you were talking about this, when we started talking about this. There's lots of people around the country right now trying to rip down statues. Right. Because they feel like those statues are racist. And it goes back to what you were saying. Gun control in America started from a racist point of view. If you want to tear down something that's really racist and horrible in America, you might want to start with all those gun control laws.
Absolutely. And that's exactly what I've been saying.
Yeah. Go ahead, John.
After the Civil War, that's when gun control really kicked off, and it was to prevent the freed blacks from owning guns. Mm-hmm. Then in the 60s, California kicked off gun control because they were afraid of the Black Panthers exercising their rights.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And these are the very measures that you base this off of. You say, okay, we dealt with slavery, we dealt with Jim Crow laws, we dealt with gun control. Then there's, no guns for Negroes. Mm-hmm. And you're like, oh, wow, you don't want us to defend ourselves? And to this day, They take this gun control, gun control. It's not about safety. It's about controlling the people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the statement came in when I said we have these young people out here marching, saying that they're Black Lives Matter, that they want racial equality, and those are the people that I'm saying have no clue to what we're talking about what true freedom is. We shouldn't be paying fines and fees to exercise a right. Self-defense is a
If
human
you
right.
have to, here's one of my things I think about this, right? It's like people are calling to defund the police. I don't think that's a good idea in any way. But when people call for that, I say, yeah, why don't you go ahead and do it? Because here's my thing. If you have to call for the police to save you, and you have to expect for them to save you, then they are your masters.
Absolutely.
Just think about that, right? If you want equality, like everything starts from you as a person, your own responsibility for everything around you. You should be able to defend yourself, right?
Yeah.
And if you have to call someone else to defend you, then that person's your master. It's like if you're a little kid and your mom has to come save you, right? If your mom has to come save you, then you're a little kid.
These are the things that they don't understand. They don't have a sense of knowing that they are responsible for their own safety, that they are their own first responders. I saw a couple young ladies crying to the police during these protests, talking about, you're supposed to save us. And it broke my heart because they're not. The we serve and protect on side of the car is they serve and protect the law. They don't protect individuals. You're responsible for your own safety. And them not knowing the law and out there crying on the shoulders of police, and then at the same time you want to fight and get into these physical confrontations with law enforcement and then defund the police. Like, what do you want? These people don't even know what they want. That's how I know it's not the little ones that really marching for the Black Lives Matter thing, but it's the upper echelon people with the finances that are funding, that are vilifying, the bad portion of what's taking place here.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question, Ron?
Absolutely.
Do you think that the people that are marching are being used as pawns by the politicians?
Absolutely. They're being dragged through the mud.
100%. We're all being used as pawns.
Again.
All of us.
Absolutely. All of us. And you have to know and figure out when, to move around. And the fact that, once again, and I say that because here's a fine example. If you're content with a law enforcement officer kneeling to you, what does that accomplish? It accomplishes nothing but a mental thing, because that's what people feel. Oh, they kneeled with us. I'm happy now after I've torn up and destroyed the whole entire country. You didn't ask for anything. What are you fighting for? Do you have an agenda? Do you have a list of things that you want your local politicians or your congressmen, legislators to change? They had 10, 20, 30, 40 years to do so, but they didn't process it in that matter. They only processed it based on skin color. That's how they've been duped. Are they pawns? Absolutely.
Yeah. The same politicians that are right now throwing on some kente cloth and kneeling down and doing all that kind of stuff were just a couple of months ago planning more and more red flag laws. We already have red flag laws around the country. They were planning more and more red flag laws, restrictions, and things like that. And eventually for the police, because I don't know who else was going to go around and take your guns, right? They were planning for this same police to go around and take your guns, that today they're like, oh yes, we're for that. We're going to defund the police. We're all for that. It's all a boondoggle. It's not real. It's not a real thing.
Once again, they don't know what they're asking for. They don't know what they're talking about. We could take Seattle as a prime example of what's to come.
Chaz.
Right?
Yeah. Or CHOP or whatever. Okay. I think it's CHOP now.
Whatever.
Yeah, I think it's CHOP now.
Yeah. I mean, they don't really stand a chance against military law enforcement or real gun owners. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
They have to be careful picking their battles or so on and so forth. But how long are we going to allow that to happen? Because then that's what I'm talking about. When people see that, people have processed that here, right? So everybody knows about it. If it didn't have any view, if there wasn't any way to see what was going on there, they would be minimized.
Yeah.
Right? That's what I'm talking about. We have to take this thing with black gun ownership to a higher level where it can be processed, where people can actually see something.
Yeah. Also, I think that, and you guys could tell me what you think about this. John, you could tell me, Rhonda. I think that thankfully for lots of, there's this image of the gun guy out there, right? That this is some kind of savage. He's just waiting to take people out. This should be an illustration to people that actually gun owners are pretty peaceful. Gun owners are pretty calm, quiet, peaceful people that are actually not just waiting to take anyone out, because you would have already seen it. If gun people would really get set off the way that these guys would have gotten set off, what we're seeing in the news would just be like a joke.
I would have to, my magazine made by KAE. KAE, they make some really cool stuff.
Yeah. I think I told someone in an interview recently that gun owners are so humble because we know that we are in possession of a firearm. We know that that firearm will take a life. You know, it's capable of taking a life if we utilize it to defend our lives. And we know that you can't take that back. So we're not running around here waiting for the moment. I wish someone would. You know, as if you're just waiting to shoot someone. That's not who gun owners are. That's not who we are. But we are prepared. We train hard. We, try to educate. But we're not looking for a fight. We try to actually back down and make sure that we don't get into any confrontations. That's the goal, to disengage and separate.
Hope for the best, prepare for the worst.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and you know what? Look, sometimes I wish that we were capable of getting out there more and getting our voices heard more. At the same time, there's like a very deliberate attempt in America to suppress the voices of people that believe in the Second Amendment. And I think one of the reasons for that is if you are, because here's my thing. I agree with the fact that a lot of this had its roots in racism. I think today it's more like classism. I think there's certain elites that rule this country as well as other places, but specifically in this country, there's elites that rule, and they know that they'll have everything. They'll have healthcare, they'll have security, they'll have everything. And the one thing they don't want the rest of America to have is guns. They don't want us to have guns and be a militia, be organized, be able to push back against whatever it is they want, right? When they set these laws, they just want us to get into lockstep and do what they say we should do. Regardless of the color of our skin, they want to disarm us. But they're not planning on getting rid of guns. Not for
They
that.
want to disarm us, but they take that and they take the Second Amendment and utilize it as their political pawn. That's why every time there's more gun control, it's the Democrats pushing for more gun control, because I don't know where they get off thinking that just Republicans exercise their rights. That's how it's processed. But here nor there, because we know that the Republicans had both cabinets at one point in time. It could have brought national reciprocity to, bring it up, and they didn't. And that was when President Trump first got into office. You can go back and check that. I don't know who was was it Rand Paul or someone didn't bring it up, but they didn't bring it up, and we could have voted on that. But
I think you're talking about strengthening pro Second Amendment rights in America when they had the supermajority.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh,
And here's the thing: when I say that, what based on what you were saying about the elite know what they're going to have down the line, that's why they jar with the Second Amendment so much, and they want to tell people to believe people that guns are bad, and only those people want to have them so that they can do this to you, and people process that without doing any homework. So
Yeah, go ahead, John.
I don't want to bring this conversation to a screeching halt, but I do want to put out the GoFundMe for my niece before I forget.
Okay.
My niece is suffering from an operable aggressive brain cancer, and there is a GoFundMe that I'm going to link out there. So if anybody has any money they can give, plus all my Patreon now goes to helping them out. So like all my Patreon helps them out, and the next 3 Patreons I get, all the money goes to them. We'll get a free rental of the new Sniper movie, and if you donate $5, I will even send you a patch.
Awesome, very cool. How is your niece doing, by the way? I was sorry to hear about that.
She's in and out of the hospital. She started radiation. I wish I could say she was doing better, but I can't. Like 2 weeks ago, she was a happy little girl, and now they're getting her a wheelchair and everything. So it's kind of
Well, we're gonna continue to pray for her. Blessings and prayers to you and your family.
Yeah. But I just wanted to put that out there, and sorry for bringing it to a halt.
No, that's okay, man.
Okay.
No, that's okay. We can stop. Yeah,
It's
we can focus on that. Did you put a link in the chat?
Yeah, I put a link in the chat.
Okay.
It's sad because like even with the copays, they have like $50,000 worth of bills.
Yeah, I know that's a tough deal. Lola, if you have that link somewhere, just put it into the description. Where do people need to go again, John? What's the?
It's a GoFundMe, or they can give directly to my Patreon, which all goes there as well. I just GoFundMe in there again.
And what's the name of the GoFundMe? So for folks who are listening, if they want to look it up.
Yeah, I put it in the thing. It's Isabella Hammer and family.
Okay.
They're in New York. Little girl. Yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there. I've been kind of distracted. That's why I haven't been responding to texts or anything else recently.
Right.
She is our goddaughter, and everything else. So.
Yeah. No, I understand. Let me see. I'm trying to pull it up right now. I don't have it. I
put it in the chat.
Yeah. Let me see. I think I've found it here. No, that doesn't look like the right one.
You guys are real fancy with the stuff you got going on.
Who?
With your all set up.
Oh.
You're doing too much.
Doing too much?
Like I try not to move. Like.
Oh, okay. Yeah, here we go. I think I pulled it up. Isabella Hammer and family. Okay, this is it. Just for folks who, if you guys are looking at this, you want to know what we're talking about. Here it goes. Or you can go to John. How do people find your Patreon?
It's just John Crump / John Crump. All that goes there, and there you can get the free rental of Sniper Assassin's Sin that just came out today, courtesy of Sony.
Right. Okay. Awesome.
Put it up there again, John. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's her.
Yeah. By the way, back. Let's see. Let's go back here a little bit. Someone said Night Train. He says, "Pray for peace, but prepare for war." That's Civis Pacem Parabellum.
Yeah, that's the John Wick movie.
Yes. Well, before it was a John Wick movie, it was an actual thing.
Yeah, I know, but what I'm saying is John Wick movie. Do you know that John Wick 4 and the Matrix movie are both coming out on the same day?
Yeah.
Which is weird.
Well, if they both coming out on the same day, I think I'd rather go look at John Wick. I'm not a huge fan of the Matrix movies per se, although I like Keanu Reeves.
Keanu Reeves
the same guys.
Yeah. Well, okay. So Keanu Reeves is in both of those. The Wachowski sisters are doing the Matrix movies, but I don't think those people have any kind of imagination. Do you know? Here, I'll give you a little trivia, John. Do you know they stole the Matrix from a black woman? They stole the idea of the Matrix. Do you know about that?
Yeah, they got sued and they had to end up paying money.
No, they got away without because
they got sued.
No, she sued them, but they had money and lawyers, so yeah, I don't think she ever got any. You don't get any money trying to sue Hollywood, man. It doesn't really work out.
Bill and Ted trailer dropped too.
I saw that too. That I'm interested. I like Keanu Reeves. I'm cool with Keanu Reeves. The Wachowski sisters, not really such a big fan of those.
Okay, so y'all losing me on the movie stuff.
Yeah, sorry about that, Rhonda.
We can go back to that.
Okay, you probably don't know this, but the Matrix. Have you ever seen any of the Matrix movies?
Long time ago, maybe saw a portion of it.
Oh, okay. You're not a big movie person?
Not anymore.
Oh, okay. All right.
And not anymore. I have a whole thing of movies in there, and they're still not even open, and they're old.
Oh.
Like, still brand new, but they're on a
Yeah.
rack.
A
Like,
thing of what? What are we talking about? Are we talking DVD? Are we talking Beta Max? Is it on a reel to reel? What is, how old is it?
Matthew found a videotape, like an old VHS tape.
Uh-huh.
And he was like, "What is this?" I was like, "That's a movie."
Yeah,
like,
back in the days, the Egyptians invented that.
No, but he's like, "Where's the screen?" Like, "Oh, the movie's on there. You have to put it in the machine."
Uh-huh.
they're DVDs.
Like,
hey.
why do you have to put it in the machine? Why can't you watch it?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. I was like, how far have we come?
Yes. So far into the future, so far. Brian Quick says, we are in the Matrix. Yeah, that's true. We're in the Matrix.
Brian also said he's John Wick and doesn't want to.
Huh? Say that again?
Brian Quick also said he's never seen John Wick and doesn't want to.
Oh, he's not a fan of the John Wick movies? Okay. M. Gabriel says Matrix is a must-see movie. It was a good movie. But proof that they stole it is the other two movies were crap. By the way, I'm going to hit you guys with another bit of trivia here. Do you know that the Matrix and the Terminator movies all take place in the same world?
In the same what?
Same world. It's the same world. Those movies, that same woman came up with the Terminator as well as the Matrix. Do you know that?
No.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So think about this. In Terminator, right? The whole premise of Terminator is that the computers became sentient and tried to take over the world and went to war with man. The whole premise of Matrix is that man and the robots were fighting, right? And then, this is how the world got messed up. Same world, same thing.
Well, we're halfway there now in the real world.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely, yeah. We get it's red versus blue nowadays in this world that we're living in. Eli EDC says Mrs. Ezell, aka the Queen of Chicago.
Eli.
You gotta bow down to Her Majesty.
Wait, I also have to say that my interview with Miss Ezell came out on MLN today. Mm-hmm. You can go check it out over there. I talked to her for MLN and also my podcast is LinkedIn.
Thank you for that. I checked it out. It was great. And if you haven't seen it, guys, go over to MLN, check it out. It's on our websites. It's on our social media pages and things of that nature. Go click the link.
Yeah, what can we find that's different, John, in the article?
Different questions. I try to keep the two questions separate. I mean, there's some overlay, but I try to keep it separate so you can get different information out of the article than you do from the podcast.
Okay.
So Hank, what took you so long to bring me on? I know John facilitated this one. We met in 2016, but I think I saw you last year at the NRA convention as well.
Yes, Lola had your card. She said she tried to reach out to you, but you didn't respond. So, Lola does all the scheduling for this podcast in particular.
Yeah, Rhonda told me you guys never reached out, and you guys said she never responded to you guys.
Well, I tell you what, Lola, if I missed that email, sweetheart, I am so sorry.
Oh. But why are you gonna apologize to Lola? But you were just coming down on me.
Look.
As soon as you heard Lola, then it was okay. But
you said she's responsible for all the emails and things of that
Rhonda,
nature. So then that means everything. I must have missed an email from her.
I blame everything on Lola.
Hank, when I see you, we can talk. If you want some smoke, when I see you, we can talk.
No, I don't want any smoke unless we're having a barbecue. Thank you very much. No, it's all good. Listen, I do remember meeting you, and even Lola when John, when John reached out to her about it, she looked it up and she saw that she did email you. So we got the email proof if any evidence or whatever.
So Rhonda,
I'm gonna look and see what was. I think I'm 10 years older than you, John. So hey, I can't remember everything.
Oh
I mean,
boy.
the world is on fire.
Chris Bullis says Hank is just slow. There you go. Wow. Wow.
No,
Okay, I'm glad.
when you both told me that, you're like, Rhonda's like, yeah, I was supposed to be on the show, but they never emailed me. Then I said, hey, I heard about Ezell, and Hank's like,
Yeah.
she responded to us.
Out
Like,
of
wait a
town.
minute.
I could have been anywhere.
Yeah.
I've just missed
Listen,
it.
listen. You know why it happened right now, Rhonda? You know why it happened right now? It was preordained. It was written to happen this way.
Absolutely.
This is what I believe. I don't want to get into, not to get in too deep into this, but hey, this is the way it was meant to be. We were meant to come together, and we were meant to be brought together by John Crump. What can I say?
I feel like matchmaker.
Yeah, now he's gonna forever. That's gonna forever be his thing.
No, man, I still have people. I was at the 2A rally last October, and I was sitting there behind of interviewing some people, and someone's out there yelling, "Popcorn! Popcorn!"
Oh, really?
Pimp popcorn on Hank's show for my son's troop.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what John uses us for, to pimp all the things that his kids are selling. Yeah, oh, absolutely. Girl Scout. Wait, no, they didn't do Boy Scout cookies. They just did the popcorn, right? That was
orange. Yeah, I don't do Boy Scout cookies.
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out to Tyven Show. I see Tyven Show out there. Let me throw this up here on the screen for you guys, because I hate to go back. This is going to be it, and then we can move on here, because some people got mad because I'm connecting the Matrix and the Terminator movies. It's a reality. Sophia Stewart, okay? The little-known story has met a just conclusion as Sophia Stewart, African-American author, see it's right here, African-American author of The Matrix, will finally receive her just due from the copyright infringement of her original work. A 6-year dispute has ended involving Sophia Stewart, the Wachowski brothers, Joel Silver, and Warner Brothers. Boom!
I told you she got money.
Yeah. This was dated 2013 or something like that. Yeah. So, and if you go back and look at this, if you, like I said, because we have Rhonda here, I don't want to get too deep lost in this, but for anyone out there who doesn't believe me, go do the research on the Google machine. The Matrix and the Terminator movie are both things that she came up with. She wrote the original graphic novels and things like that for that. So there you go.
Well,
you gotta recognize.
I don't know too.
Yeah. Why do you think there were so many in the Matrix? Like the Terminator movies, I'm trying to remember. They weren't really I can't remember. I think there was one guy in the Terminator movies that was black, but the Matrix had a lot of black people in there. The Wachowski brothers knew what they were up to. They're not very creative. They're not very creative. This is how the Wachowski brothers wound up being the Wachowski sisters. Go look that up. You'll find out what I'm talking about.
Yeah, they were brothers, and then they.
I guess I got a lot of homework to do.
Yeah.
Totally okay.
Yeah, just go look. Just go do the research on it. It goes deep. I don't want to get into it here. We've got Rhonda Ezell here.
Please
Lola's
out too, by the way.
Huh? You have what?
Tons of stories coming out in our out. By the way.
Coming out of what? Oh, on Okay.
One about one of your guests.
One of my guests?
Yep.
Okay. Do you want to fill us in on this? What's this big secret? You don't want to fill us in. Is it the guest? Yeah, just John. Just quietly tell me, is it the guest that's on right now?
No. Well, no. Okay. That's the word that came out. No, I'm talking about John Gimmons.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Armslist.
They won their case in Massachusetts against the Brady campaign. Mm-hmm. The case was thrown out, and they were successful, but the Braves are still suing them in Wisconsin. I think this is like their 6th lawsuit for the same thing. And I talked to some lawyers, and they said that they're going to lose that one, that the Brady campaign's going to lose that one too. So I think they're trying to bankrupt them.
Yeah, actually, John sent me something from the article, Armslist defeats gun grabbers in court.
Oh, is that my article?
Something he sent me. No, this is a press release from Armslist.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I helped write that.
Oh, okay. So should I read it?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see if we can run a little bit of this in here. I'll get it to go big one. I gotta zoom in on it. Boston, Massachusetts Armslist LLC announced that it has successfully defended itself against a Brady-backed lawsuit. Brady was established in 1980 as Name Handgun Control Inc. And then it goes on about the whole thing. So go ahead, John. You can break down what happened there. It's a whole bunch of legalese in there. So.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I'm gonna cut out all the legalese.
Mm-hmm.
There is something called the Safe Harbor Act, which basically prevents places like Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace, or any place like that sells stuff like Amazon, for example. They have third-party sellers.
Mm-hmm.
So it gives immunity to the places that host third-party sellers from crimes committed by third-party sellers. It's cut clear and dry. There is a good discussion on the EFF, Electronic Frontier Foundation, about it, but it is very, very cut and dry. There's no way around it. Their lawyers at the Brady campaign, they know that they can't succeed, so they're giving these people false hope by saying, "Hey, we can get you some money," but it's not the case. It's every court has turned down every time somebody gets sued for a third-party seller. They had cases go up to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court ruled on it and said, you cannot sue the company because a third-party seller. So,
mm-hmm.
Let's say somebody on eBay sells something.
Mm-hmm. Because
you can't eBay.
Yeah, because basically, I think in this case, which we've had John Gibbon on the podcast, Armslist is not facilitating the deal. They're just basically a platform that people are meeting each other on. And then people are responsible for following the laws in their states, cities, or whatever, right? Whatever applicable laws.
Yeah, they're Craigslist or guns, basically.
Yeah. So, okay, this is a good thing for them. And you're saying there's another lawsuit that's out there as well. It's going to fall apart.
Yeah, they're in Wisconsin. I don't know if the press release is out yet.
Oh, really? I just showed the press release, so.
I know, but I don't know if it's out to the press outlets. I only if like a few people have it.
Breaking news right here, people.
Yeah.
Breaking news.
She just did the same thing that Walter did. You and Walter are definitely old school. That's my friend Walter, who's usually on the show. I don't know if you watched the show here, but he just did the same thing a couple days ago.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah. Check Your Six says the red pill or the blue pill. Which one, Hank? I guess the correct answer for that would be the red pill. But to me, I'm not taking pills from anybody.
There's a theory that says the pills are a myth. It doesn't matter what pill that you take.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not taking pills from anyone. That's my answer. I'm not taking pills from anyone. There's no way of escaping the Matrix. We're in the Matrix, inside of the Matrix, inside of the Matrix.
Don't go back to the Matrix.
That's not me, Rhonda. That's those people.
No.
I can talk about theory, but I'm not blowing mine.
Let me get out the Matrix for a minute, and I'm gonna send them somewhere else, especially if they're women, and especially if they're gun owners.
Right.
I want them to go to dcproject.info because I'm part of the DC Project, and we are women that go to DC to speak with our legislator as gun owners. Right. We're there to be a resource. And if you're not reaching out to them on the state and local level, you can get involved. You can get with the DC Project. You can be a resource for your legislators because the laws that we see that we don't agree with, we want to go down there, we want to talk about it. But when we talk about organizations, it's not just black women or black people, you know, that are coming up. It is people getting together in groups and exercising their rights as a whole. And I'm a part of that organization as well. And they do
I'm
great
throwing
things.
it up on the screen as you're speaking here.
There are about 1 to 3 million new gun owners. I don't know how many are women. They need to start to get involved, get
40%.
proactive, and start to, you know, get involved and standing up, because we have to counteract the ones that are wearing the red shirts that are forcing all the gun control, right? So they go down there and they work with these politicians and they put these measures in place, and their gun owners are stuck fighting the battle. But the DC Project is good for that. It's all women, and you know, you can get involved, you can start being proactive, you can step up. You want to be a fighter?
Okay.
You're ready. Hit the you know.
Who
hit
are the
our
women in the DC
website.
Project? I mean, you don't have to tell me all of them, but
You can go to my podcast.
The
About 10 of them.
Diana Muller. Diana Muller is the founder of the DC Project.
Okay.
She is a retired police officer from Oklahoma.
Yeah.
She's a professional 3-gun shooter. And she was just on Fox the other day, I believe it was yesterday, speaking about a police shooting. So Diana Muller, you have a bunch of 3-gun shooters, competition shooters, a lot of trainers. Like, it's so many to name. You know, it's just a world of education there. They're professional shooters. I was asked to come in to support the state of Illinois. I'm one of the 3 people that represents Illinois. So we just want to make sure that women across this country have somewhere else to go if they are new to guns and they want to learn and they want to get involved.
Yeah.
So the DCProject.info is the place to go.
Okay.
I've had about
Go ahead, John.
10 of the women from the DC Project on my podcast are all extraordinary women. If you don't know who Diana Muller is, she's on Fox News sometimes. But also, if you remember the woman in Congress that told the senator right to his face that if you enact an assault weapons ban, I will not comply. That is
Absolutely.
Diana Muller.
That's
Holly
Diana
Sullivan from Connecticut.
Absolutely.
Who's been on the podcast is awesome. I've had the Virginia director on.
Okay.
And all of them have stories, and all of them.
And that's the thing. Everybody has a story to tell when they go into those offices. So you're not just going in there just blabbing off at the mouth. You're going in there, laying down what you have to share with them about what your experiences was, or what the changes you want to see happen. This is what I'm talking about, where we see people that's marching and protesting and don't have a clue to what they want, versus, okay, over here, I'm over here and I'm able to say, I know exactly what we need to do. I know exactly who I need to speak with, and this is exactly what I want to tell them. There's a difference.
You mean down a Wendy's isn't going to change anything?
Who?
I said, you mean burning down a Wendy's isn't going to change anything?
Absolutely not. All you did was help gentrify the neighborhood.
Yeah.
I mean, it's easy now. They don't have to do anything. You've destroyed the entire space and area.
Yeah. By the way, any of the women of the DC Project are welcome to come here on the show.
Absolutely.
I'm guessing you're the first one from the DC Project probably to be on the show.
I don't know, because it's so many of us, Hank. Yeah. You never know. It's so many of us, and I'm the last person to probably be on your show.
Antonia Okafor, is Antonia Okafor in the DC Project?
Absolutely.
Okay, no, then she would be the first one then, probably.
Yep.
If you want, Hank, I've had like over 10 of them on my show.
I'll get you connection, Hank, with a list of ladies that could get interviewed. So I'll make sure I make that happen.
Okay, thank you, John. I heard your humble brag. I heard it.
I've been Cheryl Todd. You've had Cheryl Todd on, right?
Cheryl Todd. Did I have Cheryl? I think so. Is that the lawyer?
No. If you haven't had Cheryl Todd on, you need to have Cheryl Todd on.
Okay.
Her camo is polka dots, so you may have heard of her
Cheryl
that way.
Todd.
But we have a lot of women. We have just a ton of great women for you to interview.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have biathlon that won Olympic winners, and
Okay.
we have just it's so many people from all ethnic backgrounds, race,
Yeah.
and
We'll do better
everything,
to
and they
work
have
on.
stories to share.
Okay, we'll do better to get those ladies here on the show. They're obviously welcome.
They have a lot.
Go ahead, John. What's up?
The reason why I have them on my podcast is because they're all awesome guests. You really don't have to, you know.
Oh, okay. Yes, I did. I met
Let
Cheryl
them go.
Todd. I met her. Yeah, yeah. So you mentioned that Diana was on Fox News. Have you been on Fox News?
No, and I tried to reach out to them 1,000 times. I was with Laura Ingraham when she came here to Chicago to do something about the violence. I think it was like her second time coming back or whatever the case may be. So I went to that event and I met her, and of course we exchanged business cards, and was supposed to get someone was supposed to reach out, and they never did, and that's fine too. But like I said, I have yet to be on there,
I'll
but
get you there.
Okay, well you heard that from
make it
John.
happen.
John's your agent. He'll get you on there.
I got
He'll make it
connections
happen.
there.
He'll make it happen. Yeah. Kermit Loves Bacon says I tried to get Hank to have Holly on when Connecticut was pushing its 35% ammo sin tax. Listen, if you're trying to get someone on the show, talk to Lola. Lola usually tries to reach out to people. They don't always answer, so sometimes it takes
Are
time.
Are they talking about Holly Sullivan?
I don't know.
Yes,
Oh,
they are.
okay.
I'm guessing. Okay, there you
They
go.
are. She's
All
the
right.
DC Project member as well, and she just won a case with here I go, Connecticut Defense League,
Yeah,
right? Somebody
CCDL,
CCDL.
Connecticut Citizens Defense.
Yes, they
Yeah.
just won their case,
Yeah.
and my case was cited in that as well. That's why it's so important that people understand that when these cases are being won across the country, two of the main three cases, you have the Heller case, you have the McDonald case, and you have the Ezell case creeping its way right on up in there, and two of the three cases have black lead plaintiffs, and it goes back to they wouldn't know that because they're not in the 2A family, but if we start to visualize and humanize these cases and they see these things, then it could change some things.
Yeah. Let me ask you, Rhonda. I just thought of this. So I don't know if you've ever watched the show, but what happens to me is random thoughts pop in my head, and that gate that's supposed to stop me from saying stuff doesn't really work that well. But
Okay.
you've done a lot for the Second Amendment here. Has anyone ever tattooed you on themselves? Any gun guys ever done a tattoo of you? If not,
Not
we gotta
that
make
I
it
know
happen.
of.
You did?
Yeah, I
No,
did.
you did not. Where?
Do you really want to see?
Show it. Show it. Show
No,
it.
Wait a second. Hold on.
Oh, never mind. I thought you may have had something on your hand or something. If it's never mind.
Yeah.
But no, Hank. No, Hank.
Yeah.
I haven't read that tattoo yet.
Yeah, come on now. Someone out there needs to get. You need to get a Rhonda tattoo now. Come on, make it happen. Let's see. Let's get someone. It's got to be a real tattoo, not one of those temporary things.
Not the wipe off kind.
Yeah, it's got to be real. It's got to live there forever. When you go home, your wife's got to be like, "What the hell's going on? Who's this Rhonda?"
Like, we're getting divorced now.
Yeah. Kathy Music Lover says, John, please don't go naked. Yeah. So, okay, let's see here. How do we get...
All right. I make you guys a deal.
What?
If someone donates $5 to my niece's GoFundMe, I won't get naked. But if no one does in the next 10 minutes, everything's coming off.
Okay, and let me block his image right now. I thought he was gonna say if someone gave $5, he would get the tattoo.
He'd get a tattoo,
well,
right?
Then I was gonna say that a tattoo costs a little bit more than that, but okay.
Right, I thought he was going all out for the $5 for the tattoo.
Yeah,
Wow.
and then
I'm not Fiverr, man.
Yeah. So here you go. Someone's going after me again. Armory and Axis says, Lola Strange, if it wasn't for you working as a team with Hank, this would be a big train wreck. Laugh out loud.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
This is it. I get
You're
no
in
respect.
trouble, Hank.
I get no respect around here. What's up, Lola? You want me to read the stuff off the board? No, I don't think so. I refuse. Lola's got questions over there. I'm refusing to follow orders.
Follow orders. You have to follow orders. Close that gate because now people are passing judgment on your professionalism.
I refuse to be professional. Okay, I'm a contrarian.
So I try to be as much as possible.
That's what makes this show so much fun is the non-professionalism. I've been on like news shows and stuff when they're all stuffy.
Yeah.
Well, it's my first time, so I'm not as loose as you guys. I want to be presentable when I'm speaking to the general public or when I'm speaking to the world.
When you go on Fox News, Rhonda, you're gonna miss me because those people are all stuck up, and you'll be on there for like 2 seconds. Here, you get to live. This is where freedom lives here.
I live. Trust me.
Yeah. When you're done with this experience, you're gonna be like, "Oh wow, this was awesome. I am now a new person. I went into the Matrix. I went into the Terminator. Did it all."
Right. I just went through the zone.
Yeah. Let's talk Chicago before I go to Lola's points over there that Lola's trying to get me to go to. Let's talk Chicago. Can we talk about you guys right now? If you guys have questions, you can hit us up. Can we talk about Juicy Smollett? How about that? Can we talk that?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely. John like that.
Every time I hear the name, I just remember the Dave show.
Right.
Yeah. So you're from Chicago. You're a Chicago native, born and bred. So I got to ask you, what did you we didn't know you at the time to have you come on. So what do you think about the whole Jussie Smollett thing, and what it's become now?
When I first heard it, I knew it was a lie.
Okay.
Period. Mm-hmm. Because of the area and the location where it's supposed to had taken place. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I mean, you're talking about a person that says whatever happened, and he didn't get robbed. He still had a sandwich. This is Chicago.
Yeah.
At 3 in the morning, you're going to be robbed. They're going to take coat, shoes.
Yeah.
They're going to take your phone. You're not going to be able to call anyone for help. So
are there a lot of like white dudes? Well, let me ask you. So what part? Do you remember what part of Chicago that was? Like, because I don't. Streeterville. So in that Streeterville, what kind of people live in that area?
It's mostly Caucasians there.
Okay.
And it's not an area where a lot of black people live. Period.
So a lot of people from the Caucasus Mountains.
He was in a secure location where he could have slept in front of the Subway store had he chose to, and wouldn't have been harmed. So when I heard that he was robbed and beaten and noosed up and so on and so forth, I knew it was a lie in the door, and I hadn't even had all the information. Mm-hmm. But knowing the area and processing the fact that who he was, why didn't you call a Grubhub or a food place that could deliver your food?
Right. But I mean, also it was like, what was it, like 2:00 in the morning or something? It was negative 20 degrees
50
or something?
degrees below zero in Chicago. No one is outside.
Wait, does Chicago actually get to 50 degrees below zero, or that's just like
it's a little extra, but it got 30 or 40. Yeah, it's cold. It got cold that day, especially that night, 25 below.
Oh, okay. I think we lost John here for a second, but we'll probably get him back. I'll keep an eye on it. I'm sure we'll get John back in here.
But nevertheless, he caused a lot of destruction. He lied. He almost started a race war. He caused city taxpayers to pay a lot of taxes to, for resources to try to figure out the crime, a crime that never happened, that ended up being people that he worked with and was kind of cordial with, if you want to say. So at the end of the day, if you go back from the beginning and process it from, he was attacked and they said this mega stuff and they put a noose around his neck, and but you still had a phone, you still had your coat, you still had shoes, you still had your sandwich. So in Chicago, he would have been robbed. Like, I'm literally saying, if they had robbed him, they would have taken those items. But then come to find out down the line, it was a setup. It was planned. and he knew the people. At that point in time, what else could you say? You knew it was a lie, but why? And he went on national television promoting this story all around, and now he thinks he's supposed to just walk.
Yeah, I think a lot of the residents of that area were upset because they couldn't imagine two like white dudes walking around with MAGA hats in that part of Chicago, which from what I hear is very liberal, right? So, you know, they wouldn't be just walking around with some MAGA hats in Chicago.
And even if they did, nothing would have happened because they're the type of people that live there. They're not the rowdiest, the roughest neighborhood. That's not a rough neighborhood.
Yeah. So tell me, as a Chicagoan, is that the word? So what is it? If you're from Chicago, is a Chicagoan a good one?
That's a good one.
Okay. As a Chicagoan, how many Nigerians do you guys have up in Chicago? Is there a lot of Nigerians over there? There are a lot of Nigerian people moved there? Oh, a lot? Okay, cool. I used to live in Nigeria.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's great. It's a lot. Because even we have events where we go out and we set up at this event too. It's called the African Festivals of Arts. And it's like a 3 or 4 day event. And it attracts the Black culture. And everyone comes out. So you know they're there because you have 50,000, 100,000 people come through the weekend.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They're not flying into Chicago just for this event. This is one of the biggest events that's happened in the city all the time.
So lots of Nigerians. I know that when I saw there was some Nigerian dudes caught up in this whole thing, it just cracked me up to no end. I used to live in Nigeria, and I consider like Nigerians my people.
But at the end of the day, though, the guy worked on the set of the show with him.
Yeah, it was one of his trainers.
So go figure.
Yeah,
so
one of his
he
trainers.
Literally picked these guys out specifically to, you know, in hopes of getting away with it, and then, you know, cause a big ruckus. And it failed. It blew up in his face.
Did were a lot of how did Nigerians feel about this? I don't know if you know any Nigerians at the time. They didn't really. Yeah.
I didn't get to speak with any to know how they feel, but I know they probably was laughing. I know they probably was laughing because it was stupidity. It was just pure stupidity. Everybody, because if you're from Chicago, if he had said he was somewhere on the west side of town, maybe on the south side, somewhere where he shouldn't have been, maybe hanging with some people that he shouldn't have been, and it happened, absolutely believable, because he probably would have gotten shot in the process.
No, I think you made a good point that if some real bad guys had gone after him, he wouldn't have any clothes or anything like that.
That's what I'm saying. And he had this fancy phone and, you know, whatever little stuff he had, he still had it in his possession. So therefore, no robbery had taken place.
Yeah, I mean, I knew those Nigerians were down.
Soft area.
Yeah, I knew the Nigerians were down with him when he didn't have any kind of real bruises. And I could tell you, like, one thing I know from, like, I've gotten into fights, you know, with Nigerian dudes. You're coming out with some bruises.
And when the police showed up at his apartment, he still had the noose around his neck.
That's what I was about to say. My thing is this: if it was so horrifying that you had a noose around your neck, why did you still have it an hour later?
Yeah.
You know, you called your manager and discussed the details, and you still have this on your neck. But then when they found the evidence in those boys' home where they made the letter, and that was another federal crime. He mailed the letter to himself through the FBI. I mean, the FBI was on this case.
Yeah, the feds aren't going to go after him,
though. That was
a
lot.
Yeah.
I know, but let's take a look at everything that he did wrong. And
Kathleen Music Lover said they didn't even take his sandwich. I mean, come on, that's true.
That's what I'm saying. I told you. He still had food. He still had his clothes. He still had his phone. He still had shoes. So, but that area it's not a bad area in Chicago. Yeah. So no one's gonna be out at that time of the morning in that weather waiting to rob someone that just happens to be going to get a sandwich. Yeah. And you had a fight and you still had a sandwich. But not to mention they tried to hang you with a noose, but you kept the sandwich. In self-defense, we know that if we're attacked and we have something in our hands, we're going to drop our items and we're going to get ready to defend that life.
Yeah. Or if that's all I have, I'm going to beat you. I'm going to beat the living daylights out of you with that frozen ass sandwich.
How many MAGA hat wearing racists watch Empire?
I have no idea.
I can tell
I
you one
don't
thing.
get
I have
into
never
that.
seen 2 minutes of Empire.
No, but it's like,
So I don't know anything about Empire.
like
No,
Yeah.
they did right to. I don't know if they took it off the show, took it off the air or
Yeah, I think.
whatever, but it needed
Yeah.
to be taken off because he spat in the face of every person that lives in this city. Because at the end of the day, what he did was put a lot of lives at stake when he said he was attacked. He knows that the city of Chicago hates the president. We've seen that
He
because
could have
when the
kicked off
president
something like
came
what we
here,
saw here with
this is what I'm saying. He
George
could have
Floyd. Yeah.
kicked off a race riot and lives could have been lost. That's how I process it. I care less about what he did it for. What I know is he lied, he was wrong, and he could have caused a massive amount of lives lost with a race war had people believed him and they couldn't prove him wrong.
Yeah.
I think the black community in Chicago basically knew he was lying right away, though.
Does Juicy still live in Chicago? Or he
I don't think he even lived here. I think he had maybe was renting a condominium here because of the show was here.
Oh, that show took place in Chicago.
He had just flown in that
Okay.
night.
Oh.
He had just flown in that night, and they planned this on the plane to do this robbery and so on and so forth.
Okay.
So I don't think he resides here.
Okay.
But I do believe he may have some property that he rents.
Okay.
I don't keep up with the kid,
Yeah. No, I understand.
I don't keep up with
I understand.
care less about-
Eli EDC says, ask Miss Ezell about her opinion about Kim Fox. Laugh out loud. That's his thing. Kim Fox. Is Kim Fox the prosecutor? Was that the prosecutor there?
She's a state's attorney.
State's attorney. Okay, what's your opinion on Kim Fox? Good,
Well,
bad?
Kim Fox is pretty much was complicit in the ordeal, if you ask me, because she had connections to some of the Obama administration who were friends with Smollett, along with Kamala Harris, and so on and so forth. But she knew things, and so she didn't want to prosecute. She did the wrong thing,
Okay.
So she's not what we need as a state's attorney. She refused to prosecute cases here. These people are getting a slap on the wrist, even the ones that are committing murder. I met a man we went to a gun task force meeting to speak with our legislators that had formed this gun task force meeting. And the man, he testified that a young man killed his son, and the young man still taunts him to this day. But the reason that the young man got off for the murder is because he was related to someone that works in the office of the state's attorney. So she's not, doing her job. She's allowing people to do the stealing, and we moved it up from $100 or $200 to $1,000 before you can be convicted of theft. And I mean, just once again, they're feeding into that narrative of getting the black votes. What do we do to keep? Because if you steal something, you go to jail. If you take a bubble gum, you go to jail. I just believe you shouldn't be stealing. Just get a job, go to work, and buy what you need. So someone might say, "Oh, it's harsh for somebody to go to jail or they're in jail and they can't afford to pay their bond." Why are you in jail? You had the option to be doing something other than doing what you did to get there. So I'm kind of old school, and I don't agree with a lot of things other people say because they think because you black, you're supposed to support everything the black people say and do. That's not how I was raised, and that's not how I raised my child.
We all should hold ourselves to higher standards, not lower ones.
Absolutely.
If you watch Chris,
Huh?
But Chris Rock, he was talking about, people are saying, I raised my kids. And he's like, you're supposed to.
Come on now. Yeah, exactly. Okay, let's see here. Eli EDC also wants me to ask you about the Supreme Court's decision about the assault weapons ban in Chicago.
Well, Well, the Supreme Court just said that they weren't taking any Second Amendment cases.
Yeah.
And I think Judge Thomas wrote something about it, and he was a bit upset about it because they haven't taken a case since 2011.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how many cases was for cert or whatever.
I think it was 10 of them.
10,
was Chicago one of those cases?
Absolutely. It was you're going to make Wilson versus Chicago case that has been being fought for over 15 years.
Wow.
Probably more than that. And, it's time that the Supreme Court take up one of these cases and solidify what the Second Amendment is. Or, you know what I'm saying? Because you can't keep shooting it back down to the lower courts, or the lower courts think that they can move the case like they tried to do in Virginia. And because they can always come back with some more shenanigans. So if they're not going to take these cases, I mean, what are they waiting on? What are they doing?
Maybe you know what? I think that's a good question. Maybe they're waiting for us to get upset or something before they decide to, shore up the Second Amendment or confirm that the Second Amendment actually exists in America.
Maybe.
Well, you know what?
I'll take us.
I was trying to. I really wish gun owners would do a great march like what we see now. We're the only group that haven't showed up yet.
Well, we did in Virginia. We had thousands in Virginia, but that's
absolutely. You did, and Governor Northam slapped you on the wrist and said, "I'm going to put more gun control in place," because he was so angry that you stood up against those measures.
Yeah,
and he just
I think the crazy thing. I think the crazy thing about Virginia, I would also like to see people demand that Northam steps down in Virginia. I mean, it's the double standard you were saying of racism, right? That they're out there pulling down statues and stuff like that. But Northam throws on blackface and he's still the governor. What the hell's going on?
And his nickname was Cool Man in high school and college too.
And the notion that he said that he would not say which one he was in the pictures, that should raise a red flag to everybody. Okay,
he did it a lot.
Pick your options.
Yeah,
neither of the photos are great here, but we're allowing this individual to run this state.
Originally, he said he was in blackface and he was dressed up as Michael Jackson for Halloween.
Yeah.
Standing next to a guy in a Ku Klux Klan outfit, which makes...
I think sometimes we have too much honor, which I think, okay, that's a good thing. It's a good thing to have honor. But sometimes we have to fight fire with fire, man. And people like Northam, we need to fight with the fact that he put on blackface. That guy does not need to be the governor of Virginia. You can't be in Virginia pulling down statues and stuff like that, and then this guy's your governor. What kind of insanity is that?
That goes back to tell you that these people don't know what they want.
Yeah.
Because they're not paying attention. They don't do politics. They are followers. When you ask, are they pawns? Absolutely, they are followers. They're just following the herd. They don't have any agenda of their own. If they knew about Northam, they would march right up to that front door and demand that he resign.
We all know about him. It's not a secret anymore. Go ahead, John. Sorry. Go ahead.
We call him in the state of Virginia. We call him Governor Blackface.
He needs to step down. He needs to step down.
In Virginia news, GOA and GOF and VCDL has sued Virginia over their new one handgun a month law.
Yeah.
And there's going to be other lawsuits coming down too.
Yeah.
Well, one thing is for certain is these states that are imposing these gun control measures are losing. So we know that. We needed that backup from the Supreme Court. And for them to deny to take one of these cases, I mean, you either take the case or figure out if Ruth Bader Ginsburg still alive. Like, I don't know what you need to do to figure it all out, but you have to take it.
They're just pumping her up with some of that Michael Jackson juice. Keep her going past the election.
That's the Matrix lady. She's the Matrix. What was the other show you talked about?
Terminator.
She's the Terminator. She keep coming back.
Yeah.
I think she's Bernie from Weekend at Bernie's.
But
yeah.
But if they don't do something about, really making a solid decision towards the Second Amendment, then, why are they there? You can't skip over the Second Amendment and take every other thing from somebody
It's so
messed up
blatant
person
at this
came up.
point. I think it's so blatant at this point that we're living in a country where even like on the right, the people who are supposed to be conservatives or Republicans, even they don't want to stand up for the Second Amendment.
It's since 2011. So there's no way possible that you didn't have this. Like, I'm trying to figure out. It's been since 2011 since they took a case.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they did take a case recently, but then they decided not to hear it after arguments.
Right, the New Jersey case. So it's like they didn't take it. They took it, but
then they said that.
Well, I think they
what we're asking for.
The New York case, everyone thought they were going to take. They didn't take that. I think that was a sign right there.
But then they said, well, New York dropped it, so it's now moot, and they kicked it back down.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. We have to go beyond that. We can't accept them mooting the case. We don't want to talk about Second Amendments because I don't know what they want to. The Second Amendment is being utilized as a pawn, just like all those people out there marching and protesting. It is the exact same thing. It's being kicked around, kicked the can. And it's been done for too long now. They're going to have to either take a case or, something has to happen.
Yeah.
Because
I think what they want to happen,
they won't be able to continue with the stuff that they're doing.
Yeah. I think that, like, Chief Justice Roberts has no backbone. And that's a huge problem that we have here. He's very easy to intimidate, and he's clearly being intimidated by the left. Lola has a good question here, so I'm going to get to this one. She says, on the topic of black votes, what does Miss Rhonda think about the Biden comment? Remember, Biden says if you don't vote for him, then you're not black, or you're not black enough, or whatever the comment was that he made. You're not black. If you don't vote for me, then you're just not black. What do you think about that?
I think it was very stupid to even say it. I'm surprised he even had enough sense to let it come out in a sentence. I mean, I'm black and I'm not voting for Biden either way. What difference does it make?
Yeah.
I mean, he has dementia. He's been in office over 40-something years. He had an opportunity to do whatever he needed to do. He was vice president, and he's done nothing. I mean, he brought us the crime bill to lock black people up. But saying that if an individual don't vote for you, that they're not black, well.
Yeah. There's a lot of, I'm just going to say, let me see, what's the best way I could say this to you? Probably the most straightforward way I could say it. There's a lot of people in America, I'm not just saying black people, because there's celebrities and people like that think they're rebels, or they're badass, or they're tough, or they're somehow outstanding people because they're pushing back against Republicans or Trump or whatever. To me, the worst group of people here are Democrats and liberals because they believe they have ownership over us. It's one of these things. I remember this. I know you're not a big fan of the movies, but I remember this movie that the Django movie where the I guess the white guy in there frees Django from slavery, and then he feels responsible for him because he freed him from slavery, right? I really think a lot of Democrats out there, a lot of liberals, Joe Biden is a perfect example, they feel they somehow have ownership over us. We should just abdicate our freedom to them, and they should decide what's right for us. And if we don't do that, we're not black enough. Well, it's so insane.
You have to remember, before this tragedy happened that we're dealing with right now, we were actually just tossed to the side because they was fighting so hard for open borders. Remember? They wanted everybody to pour in. They were promising everything free, which meant they know they had utilized the black vote for the last 50 years. And when people started to migrate and decide to go to another party or vote for somewhere else or just start to think for themselves and do things differently, they started
you had that big
we need
black
another said group of people.
Yeah, you had that big black
So they start allowing people to come across the border, promising them everything for free, telling them it doesn't matter if you're undocumented or not, and then they want to let them vote. Fine, if that's what you want to do, but it's not right. because there's laws in place for them to come to this country legally. So at that point, they had given up because they knew they had lost a lot of the black support. But then this crisis happened. George Floyd was murdered. And boom, we got her. Now they holding their fists, they're marching, they're kneeling, they're wearing kente cloth, they're telling you black power and that they support you and so on. But they had just crossed you out just recently enough to know that they were marketing and promoting open borders. And that's the reason they were marketing for that.
Yeah.
Isn't the kente cloth like a sign of like the elite rich in Africa or something like that?
It's something like that. It's from families. It's Africa, Ghana.
Yeah, it's specifically
and other countries around.
Yeah, it's specifically from Ghana, and it's specifically a West African thing. Mostly, it's from Ghana. And yes, mostly it's something that's worn for celebrations or important days and all that kind of stuff. It does symbolize that. To me, this is me. This is how I look at things, and people can research this. I always try to tell people, if you look at roots as your idea of what happened with slavery, you're very misguided. Because roots has where these like white guys wound up on the shore of Africa and they just started kidnapping Africans. That would be literally impossible. It happened maybe a small percentage of the time. Most of the slavery that we have, like I'm from the Caribbean. My ancestors in the Caribbean and Rhonda's here in America that were slaves were Africans, West Africans, that were sold into slavery by their own people. Those people would be Ghanaians.
Kane said that Tim Kaine said that slavery was invented in the United States.
No, okay, well, he doesn't, whatever. And here's the thing. So, like, at that time during slavery, it was called the Kingdom of Ghana. That was like Nigeria, Ghana, a big chunk of West Africa was the Kingdom of Ghana. That's why, like, if people here in America, if black people in America do this or in the Caribbean, most of us will find that our genetics point back to Nigeria and Ghana. That's where we came from. Our own people sold us into slavery. And this is one of the ways that they got wealthy. A lot of people forget this. This doesn't mean, like, I don't hate Africans. I live there. My wife is African. I don't hate African people. But when we go around, like, pulling down statues and saying this flag is no good, we got to think about, okay, if we're going to hold these people responsible for slavery, what about these people? What about the people that had the most to do with slavery? You could still go to Ghana and see the fortresses that were built there for them to ship their own brothers and sisters out of Ghana into slavery in America in the Caribbean. You could still see it if you go there, right? Those things are still there.
And that's the thing about when they wore these cloths, they were totally disrespectful. They had no clue and no idea what was going on, but they did know that they were tapping into the mentality of the black community. You know what I'm saying? Because they're very fragile, and they knew it was easy to do so. And no one questioned it. No one questioned it.
It's just pushing buttons.
Went along with it.
Yeah, it's just pushing buttons, and we just react to it, and we think. And I'm not trying to say, like, we honestly, to get over this and get past it, we need to understand. We need to understand it. We need to look at it, and we need to move forward. And just like I don't want to hate Africans, I definitely don't hate my wife or my children or any Africans or any black people that are out there. We need to get past it and stop hating people. The white people that are here today aren't the ones that did this to us, right? And
there's all the time.
At some point we have to realize this terrible thing happened. Everyone's complicit in this. Everyone's complicit in this thing that happened, and we have to not forget it, and we have to move on, and we have to stop letting people manipulate us and push our buttons. I think, like you're saying, Rhonda, like, oh, here's this thing, we're going to jump all over this and make this seem like this is a big thing, when one of the biggest racist things happening in America right now is gun control.
Absolutely.
And they're going to come back. That particular thing that these guys want, that Biden said that he wants. And they
come back to Biden.
Do you remember Biden said he was going to? Was it Buttigieg? No, there was another guy that Biden said he was going to put.
That's who he said.
Was it Buttigieg that he said he was going to put in charge of going after the guns? Who do you think?
Beto O'Rourke.
Beto O'Rourke. Okay, so there you go. So
it wasn't.
I think it was Beto.
It was
Yeah.
Beto.
So basically, Biden is telling you that he's going after that. You know who's going to jail? If you don't know who's going to jail, just go back to the 80s and look and see who went to jail for crack cocaine and all those other things. Oh. Very quickly you'll figure it out. It's very easy to see.
They don't do politics, so they're not able to keep up with that. They don't do politics, so they're not able to keep up with that, and they're not thinking about that, and they're falling into the prey again of, oh, this is my party, we want to defund the police, and I'm going to vote this way, and the man is telling you he's going to strip you of your rights. Mm-hmm. How would you protect that very life that you have left? Not to mention that they've done it before. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think it's just a lot of people in America, they think they're rebels or something like that, and they are it's like the frickin', what is that thing from Star Wars? The Jedi mind trick. You're thinking that you're a rebel and you're somehow free and you're fighting back against the man, and you're setting up the man who's going to set you up. His first plan is to put your ass in jail. You won't be able to defend yourself. Yeah,
he's
absolutely.
Done it before.
Yeah.
And when people don't understand that, and then you ask again, you say, well, why aren't the black community getting involved? They're involved, but the majority of them put the Second Amendment on the back burner. Like, it's not a thought until something happens.
Because they've tricked people into thinking that the Second Amendment is not for them, that guns are for bad guys. Yeah, or only the cops can have the guns. Yeah, only the government can have the guns. The government will take care of us. Don't worry about. Oh, wait a second, the government's killing us. They're putting their knees on our necks. It's a confused message.
That's what I don't understand. Only police should have guns, but the police are corrupt and are violent and they want to kill us. But only they should have guns. I don't get it.
It's not real.
In Chicago, they've been doing it so long that the people literally believe it. They've adopted the terminology. Mm-hmm. They've taken the terminology and utilized it against law-abiding citizens, because every weekend, as a matter of fact, every day, all the shootings that you see, if you see me post something about some shootings and some killings and so on and so forth, you're going to see somebody agree to the fact that, oh, it's too many guns in the streets. But yeah, well, in the hands of the wrong people. Yeah. But they've already bought into the notion that firearm ownership in the black community is taboo. So they agree with that because every time their child gets killed, then this has to stop. These guns have to be taken up, but you weren't saying that at first before your child was killed. Yeah. I mean, we're not asking what was your child doing to be in this circumstance that, led to this situation. Let's talk about those things instead of attacking the tool and then only attacking law-abiding citizens and, with the fines and the fees and the more rules and regulations. Yeah. And the bad guy is not going to follow any laws, and it's just ends up on our back.
I feel like if let's pick any block in Chicago where there's this problem of the gangs have taken over and there's all this violence that's happening there. By the way, shout out to Robert from Full 30. I see him in here. Okay, so I think if we took any one of those places and we gave the law-abiding, hardworking people who were just trying to take care of their families AR-15s on that block, you would probably see that gang go away real fast. Right? Because the gang doesn't have to follow any laws, but those people have to see it. I remember one time I was having this conversation in the barbershop, and there was a guy, this is what he said to me about that. He said, you know what? The drug dealers, man, they take care of the people. They take care of them. The drug dealers, they have barbecues, they do all. I was like, what the hell are you talking about? How can the very thing that you're trying to say to me, that a drug dealer is good for the community, is insane? That drug dealer is turning people's mothers and fathers and sisters and brothers into crackheads, meth heads, whatever it is. Absolutely. And he's destroying that community, and you're trying to tell me that he's helping that community. No, that community needs to be able to take him out. And
that's what happened when people think that everything that's free is good. That's what happens when you tend to believe that something that's free is good. Now, we just had last week in an area in Chicago where it's over in Cicero, which was like a mob area back in the day. The lady that used to run it, she went to jail as well. So it's very corrupt over there. But those guys were on camera stated that they had gotten the okay from the police to do what they wanted to do. So they started attacking every car that came by, saying that black people couldn't come over there. This was just last week. Throwing rocks, they were shooting, they were attacking folks. Like, it was just crazy. You know, so when you start to set these things up and say, well, okay, these guys can run this block, and they think that they can do that, then the regular people that live there don't stand a chance until they raise up and start protecting themselves like they know, we have a right. I'm going to get a firearm. I'm going to be responsible.
When they try to do a drive-through through that neighborhood and they get tagged up, they're going to go, you know what? I think we just need to leave these people alone.
You mean
and it's crazy. It's crazy. I said for the governor needed to go over there, but I think they had a march over there. But that's here nor there because, okay, everybody is marching, right? And sure enough, the weekend come back to the same stuff. You know what I mean? But they allow those things to happen, and then gun owners are being held responsible with more gun control. It's crazy.
Yeah. Go ahead, John. I think John wanted to jump in here. Go ahead.
No, I just said I think you meant drive-by.
Yeah. What did I say?
Drive-through.
Yeah. Okay. Drive-by.
Drive-through, drive-by, drive up.
Right. Yes. Okay. I stand corrected. Armament and Access says fight crime, shoot back. I think people need to be able to defend themselves, and then they will. This is what will lead to freedom. This is what will lead to freedom. Okay, let me ask you this question. I know you were fighting for the ranges in Chicago. How many ranges do we have? Do we get any open? Where are we in the process of that? Zero. So we don't have any. Okay, how long has this been?
It's been a decade already.
Okay.
Well, come next year would be my 10-year anniversary. This month, I believe on the 28th, maybe, would be the 10-year anniversary of the McDonald case, and it'll be a decade, and we have not gotten anyone to invest into building the first brick and mortar gun range. There's no other work to be done. We done that, winning the 2 lawsuits. So I don't know why no one has gotten involved, and I think that once again, the Second Amendment community, as big as we are, as prominent as we are, people know people, and they should have gotten together and say, look, let's build the range here. The work has been done. The cases have been fought. The cases have been won. The foundation has been laid. Why hasn't anyone invested in a gun range?
Yeah. So do you think there's other things that can get in the way of this? So obviously now it's legal in Chicago. You can own a gun and you can have a gun in your home. You can legally go to the range, but there actually is no range. Are there other things standing in the way, like EPA? Who's where's this building gonna be? Where's this place gonna be? How much money would it cost for someone to come to Chicago right now and open a range?
It's nothing going to be in the way. I don't know the cost of a range, but let's just start with $5 million, $4 or $5 million. You don't need 30 lanes. You need a 10-lane range. You just need to be established. People will come.
Okay, so you're saying that there's just no one willing to invest in it, or
absolutely?
Okay,
there's no one willing to invest at the moment, and it's not something on the books that's preventing them, because whatever you do in business, when you build a brick and mortar or start a business, you still have to get licensed.
Right.
And
have you ever in your travels over this decade, have you met people that are willing to do this? I think I saw in your interview with John that you were talking about what's the name of these guys that make targets,
action
targets, right? Have you met people willing to do this? And then what's the deal here? What's the roadblock?
I talk to everyone that I get a chance to that I think that can reach out to someone that is financially capable of investing, and nothing. And that for me is the question to act to. It would motivate me to want to continue, right?
Yeah.
So you ask yourself, okay, so for a decade We've been fighting these fights. We restored rights. We know the cases that we won are going to continue to push Second Amendment rights forward for decades. But I still didn't get what I was fighting for, which was a range for the people. And when you say, well, why aren't the black people coming out? Why aren't the black people supporting? The black people don't have nowhere to go. I mean, they can go where they need to go, but here's a black woman that stood up and fought. We have an opportunity to build, and no one has built anything.
Right. Have you ever looked into it? Like Motorboat is saying, how hard is it to get a building permit to build a gun range in Chicago? I'm imagining that it could be difficult, and you could get people, because the politicians that run this place don't really want this, right? So you could potentially get these people getting in the way. We talked that Chicago has corruption, etc.
Ezell 2 took care of that.
Okay, what is that? Explain that to me.
Well, you can't have a gun range next to a daycare 500 feet within a church or a liquor store or a school, and all the little things that would have prevented you from
this is a
building
case
a gun
that you
range
fought
right in a direct place. We won that in the second case. So all someone has to do is whatever it takes. If you need to go down to City Hall and say, I want to build a range, and you pay whatever you need to pay. Of course, you may have some crooked alderman that may try to, tap your pockets. I don't know that, but that doesn't mean you have to deal with that.
Yeah.
But nothing going to stop you from building a gun range. It's a business. We've done the legwork here with the Ezell versus Chicago 1 and 2. So our job is done. It's just for a person to come in with their monies and say they want to build, go in and get their permits and start to build. I don't see anything stopping them from building. Okay. Because we also had a mayor that stopped, I'm going to screw this up real bad, Alderman prerogative, where they don't, because they used to do so much corruption, and she's called herself stop that with an executive order when she first got into office. And I don't know if anyone contested it to this point where they've done something in the area and the alderman tried to prevent it, and then they were reported and so on and so forth. So, that remains to be seen. But from where I'm looking at, nothing is standing in the way, just someone with their finances to come in and say, look, we want to build.
Yeah. Maybe.
I had talked to a few people, and a couple people backed out. And the last person I talked to, I won't say any names. It would have been great if it would have happened, because it would have worked out. It would have been great. But we haven't spoken since last year, because it's something we were supposed to talk about it for this year, but then the pandemic came in, COVID came in, so that kind of started in January, and then the murder came in. So I haven't even spoken with them about that. But the other two people I had spoke to, they kind of backed out and changed their minds about it. So that was that. I left that at that. I'm not the person to...
Right. Maybe you need to start a fund or something like this and just figure out how to fund this yourself, since you obviously have the passion that it's going to take to get this done, right? And then maybe get several companies out there to get on board. I see people talking about Springfield Armory and Rock River Arms. I mean, they've done some damage to the Second Amendment in Illinois. Maybe they can get on board and help rebuild their reputations. How about that?
Absolutely not.
Huh?
I'm just saying they did some damage in Illinois, big time.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe those maybe if you started some kind of fund or something like that to make this happen, then
I get that too. But why would I have to start a fund if the 2A community is supportive of the work, when you continuously asking about what the black people aren't doing, when we're putting our lives on the line to fight against the political powers to be, to restore rights, and no one has invested. Well, I mean, I think to actually get it, I would like to see. So no, here's my point. I would like to see it actually happen. And sometimes to make it happen, you can't leave it up to outside entities, right? You have to figure out how to make it happen. I'm sure that you're not a wealthy woman after, doing all these things that you're doing here, that you don't necessarily have the funds. But I think you could, we can get people, because they're for lots of different reasons, there's probably companies
who are sitting here looking at this going, okay, I'm not going to uproot my whole company and try to go to Chicago and build a range there because we can. So sometimes the thing to do is to put everything together, the plan of how to make this happen and what it would cost, and then go out there to those guys and say, look, this is history here. We can make this happen. You know, what we need is funding, money. You know, that's what makes things happen.
I've had that conversation several times, but I mean, I'm willing to, you know, give it another shot.
Right. No, I know. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying it's easy.
That's the reason because here's the thing, and I'm saying that that is the reason I called in the Midwest guy for Action Target and had to sit down with him and said, look, this is what's happening, and this is what needs to happen, because they will be on board. They were the co-plaintiffs. So I'm trying to say, hey, I got some people here that want to build a range. What could you do to make these things happen?
Yeah.
You know,
I think it may start by, I don't think there's any, I don't know if there's any actual, I don't think we're going to be able to do an open air range in Chicago, but I don't know what the exact situation is there. But maybe it starts from getting a building and saying, okay, we're going to take this building, buy that building, put it into the, you know, the charitable trust or whatever it is set up for that, and then like, okay, now we're gonna convert this building into being a range or someplace people can come and get education, you know, learn how to shoot and all that kind of stuff that they need to do. You know, it's just, I don't know, that's just my idea. I'm not saying it will be easy for you. It takes a lot more than that. You're gonna need a lot more people on board with you to help you organize that, and people to go out and put that money together and all that kind of stuff. So one quick thing before we move on, we got a couple of minutes here. I see the guys from Full 30 out there in the chat. I invite those guys to come on the show and talk about Full 30. You know, I can set time aside here and we can have you guys come on here and talk to the people about Full 30. I'm sure they would like to hear about it and ask you questions and stuff like that. So the invitation is extended out to you guys to come on here and do that. Let's see here. We got a couple of minutes. John, do you want to, you know, do you have anything else? I think we had a pretty good conversation here, man. I think we got nice and heated.
Yeah. Just on me that Lola posted, and the next 4 people who join my Patreon, which all the funds goes to my niece, will get a free rental of Sniper Assassins In, courtesy of Sony. And if you donate $5, that's for $1. But if you donate $5, it goes to my niece, and you get this awesome patch.
There you go. Awesome. Very cool.
No quarters for tyrants.
Awesome.
Fantastic. Awesome. What else can the folks do out there to support you, John, and find out about all your different endeavors and things you get up to?
Real John Crump on Facebook, Real John Crump on Instagram, Crumpy SS on Twitter. John Crump 2 on YouTube. That's what I'm really pushing right now. And you can always go check out my stuff over at Ammoland.com. I got tons of stuff coming on that we didn't even get to because Rhonda's such a great guest.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got a lot of good stories coming up. And remember, Gun Owners of America, go to gunowners.org. Even if you don't want to join, you can sign up to get email alerts of stuff going on in your area that affects you.
Okay, awesome, thank you. And then let me get this one comment before I get to Rhonda here. So the Alizé says, yeah, we need more people. How about Hank Strange starting it up since you have a big YouTube name? I'm not the biggest YouTuber out there, much less the biggest gun YouTuber, but I will be happy. I don't live in Chicago. But listen, I think Rhonda has been fighting for this for a long time. I will be happy to support you, Rhonda, and do anything that I could do if this is something that you want to do, or if you come across someone that actually wants to make this a reality in Chicago. I'll be willing to do anything I can to help. I'm sure John would. I'm sure all the people out here would. I'm not saying that it's definitely going to happen because we want to do it, but we can start talking about it and find people and network and promote it. And if there's a fund or whatever started, we'll be happy to help get that going. That's what this is all about. That's what I've been doing here for the last I think I'm going on 3 years with this. So we're approaching like 600 episodes at this point.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Rhonda, how can the people support you, and how can they get in touch with you after this? It's been a great conversation as far as I'm concerned.
Well, they can go to our website at chicagogunsmatter.org, or they can reach me at Rhonda Ezell /Facebook, at MS_EZELL on Twitter, and they can reach out to the DC Project, dcproject.info.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. When you said that just now, I thought Easy-E. You know, Easy-E. You were spelling it out, yeah. That'd be a good nickname, but I don't know. You probably won't like it. Maybe it won't be a good nickname. I don't know. I don't want to get I don't want to get myself in trouble.
You might be 30 years late on that.
Yeah. Check Your Six says, great guest, Hank. John, my prayers are with you and your family.
Thank you.
The Alizé says, I live in Las Vegas. I'll donate. Absolutely. Listen, you know what, Rhonda? I'm not trying to push you into anything to do anything, but if you, or for example, if there's folks out there in Illinois or in Chicago that have some ideas, or they want to help Rhonda put this together, I think that would be a great end to the story here of actually getting a range in Chicago and bringing Second Amendment to the folks out there, right? Guns are a gateway drug to freedom, but people need a place to go to train, to shoot, to find out about all of this kind of stuff. So if there is some way to make it happen, I mean, you know, let's do that. Elfster's Rifles and Reloading is out there. He says, great. Let me see. He says, thanks for coming on the podcast. Great guest. So there you go. Lola is throwing up the chicagogunsmatter.org. People can find all your info on there, right, Rhonda?
Yes, they can.
Yes, awesome. And Brick says, great show. Okay, so there you go. Let me remind everyone, the show is brought to you by Franklin Armory. We appreciate those guys. Also go to hankstrange.com, sign up for our email list. Great way to keep in touch with us. And let me run the end. Stay right there, Rhonda. Don't go anywhere. Run the end in here. There you go. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel here. Leave your comments. Smash the thumbs ups, so you can be notified every time we go live with this. You can also find this on iTunes and Podbean and all those places where you get your podcast audio from. I think this has been a lot of fun. Thanks so much, Rhonda. Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think look at John, man. We got blood pumping in him. Look at how excited John is right now.
His head is like, I see it swirling.
And my Patreon is John Crump. Patreon.com/John Crump.
Awesome, thanks. Who wants the last word? Rhonda, I'll give you the last word before I press the button.
Thank you guys for having me. If you're one of those 3 million people that are new gun owners, thank you for joining the Second Amendment community. We love to have you get out and get your firearm safety training and education. Stay safe.
Thank you, Rhonda Ezell. Thank you for fighting for the Second Amendment. We're out of here, guys. Peace.